Hey guys, if you clicked on this video and you just want to see me explain the pentatonic scale to my dad, go to this time code right now. I appreciate you being here, but this is what you want. If you're a returning viewer and you're just interested in following along with my dad's progress in this series, thanks for being here, and I owe you an apology. In the first video where I was teaching my dad to play guitar, I said that we would do weekly updates in between these longer lesson videos. Unfortunately, we haven't done those weekly updates, and there's a good reason. To do those weekly updates, we would either have to do really rushed, kind of half-baked, long-form videos, or try to look into like shorts or something. And the truth is, if I have any skill in the guitar education, mass communication space, it is really try hard long form videos. Basically, I'm not good at shorts and I don't want to rush a long form video just to check the box to say I did a weekly update. If it can't be excellent, I don't want to put it on the channel. So I'm going to punk out of doing the weekly updates. Now, to make up for that, we are going to check in on my dad with a longer form lesson video more frequently. We're probably going to do this about every month or so. Anyway, I felt you guys were owed that explanation, but now let's get into the lesson with my dad. Thanks for watching. So everybody, we're back with special guest, my dad.
Hey everybody.
Everybody commented last time that I never introduced my dad by name, and so it is my pleasure to inform you all that his name is Dad, right?
Right, yep.
Okay. This is just kind of a look into a guitar lesson. You know, one of the things I can't really do really well on YouTube is give everybody one-on-one instruction, obviously. But I can kind of let you in on what a one-on-one guitar lesson would look like. If you don't know, right now we're doing a series where I'm teaching my dad to play guitar, and we're trying to kind of see how good you can get in a year if you have decent instruction. So the way we're going to structure this lesson, and pretty much all the lessons going forward, is we're going to talk about the stuff that you practiced that pertain to our previous lesson. Then we're going to kind of get into the meat of the new concept or whatever it is, the new thing that we're learning. And then we'll get into the stuff you should practice going forward. In the first video, we talked about a beginner practice routine and some exercises to do if you're an absolute beginner and you've never touched a guitar before. My dad has now done that. I guess we're going to see if there's been any improvement.
I guess we are. Yeah, I've worked on the spider exercise and the chord changing and kind of transitioning, and mostly just working on songs for chord changing.
Yeah.
But
that's good.
Let me see if I can do a spider exercise here without totally messing it up.
Okay, so that's pretty good, honestly, for only having like been playing guitar for 4 weeks.
Yep.
That's really 5 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really pretty decent. I know, it still probably feels really hard and you don't feel like you're Clapton or anything. But I mean, again, you got to think you're right now, and sort of the whole purpose of the spider exercise particularly is to kind of send you through the crucible and just get you sort of used to that next level of dexterity that's kind of required to play guitar. So keep practicing that. Later in this lesson, we'll talk about sort of the application of the spider exercise, which are scales. I'm going to show you the first of the scales that you should learn on guitar in a little bit. But now that we covered the spider exercise, let's talk about the chord changing exercise.
Yeah, I did that. I try to focus kind of on the C chord because that's the one that I struggle with. Going from G to C. I was doing E to C a lot because in a wagon wheel you go from E to C, but I found that
Wagon wheel was your song that you've been practicing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But it's kind of easy to do when you're doing chord changes because you just. What I found when I'm playing the song, it was a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So I kind of did G to C to kind of make me move all my fingers, not just, just not have that easy pivot, to try to get better at it.
Okay.
And the last couple of weeks I've been working just pretty much on the songs. I haven't been doing the metronome with the chord changes because that's what I can't do is the song. So focus on the hard part.
Cool. That's great, man. I will say it sounds to me like, and just from what you were showing me there, it looks like your chord changing ability is probably a little stronger than your ability in the spider exercise. And that's like pretty much exactly what I would expect to see for somebody who's a total beginner. the one of the hardest parts of playing guitar is like finger independence when we talk about dexterity, you know? And so like moving from a shape to a shape that involves like a whole hand motion is a little easier than like trying to independently finger,
Okay.
you know, like a scale or a spider exercise or something going up.
Because I feel like it should be harder to do the chords, but I don't feel so bad about that. But the spider exercise, I feel like that should be easier. And man, this thing is hard.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, like in life, before you play guitar, there's plenty of things you do with your whole hand. Shit. I wasn't built for the internet, you know? Anyway, in life, if you think about like, you know, using a computer, you have a mouse, you know?
Right.
Or like if you're holding your phone or holding a fork or something, there's plenty of things you do that involve not independently moving your fingers.
Right.
And guitar is sort of unique because it's a skill that does involve independently moving your fingers and, you know, keeping all your fingers in the same position except for one, you know what I mean? And that's just a thing that you don't really encounter in life. And so that's absolutely what we'd expect to see is like struggling with scales or the spider exercise, which is a precursor to scales, and sort of picking up chords a little bit more quickly. So we talked about the spider exercise, talked about the chord changing exercise that you did last week.
Right.
Let's talk about the song that you've been practicing, Wagon Wheel, and then we'll get into like this video's lesson and what to practice from here until the next video.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to start here, and you just jump in about 30 minutes after I kind of get warmed up. And
Right. Sweet. It's certainly an improvement from last time.
Yeah.
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 Again, playing guitar for a total of 5 weeks, I am totally good with that progress. You know?
Good, good, good. Yeah, it was, I play better when I'm practicing at home. There is performance anxiety here, a little stage fright,
Totally.
even though I know we're going to just retake this until it's halfway decent and you guys won't see some of the really bad ones. But it started to be fun. At first, you know, it was work. You know, the spider exercises still work, but you know, even the chord changes and stuff, it was just kind of rote, kind of doing the thing you need to do.
Yeah.
The fun in it, if any, was just, hey, you know, I'm getting a little better. That's good. A little progress is fun. But there came a point where when I was changing chords, like I can do that. Okay, you know, make a G, that's fine. You know, make a D, make an E. But when I was changing chords, right when you change chords, it feels like you're playing music, as opposed to just doing this thing. You do the things in the right order, and if you hit all the right notes, it sounds good, and if you don't, you messed up.
Right.
Kind of like video game almost. But this, it felt musical. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
I like that.
I know what you mean.
I want to do that now. This is fun now. And so that was exciting to get to that point.
That's cool.
Just that, you know, going from that when you wanted to make that happen and it happened.
Yeah.
You know, that felt like you were in control and playing a song.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like, you know, you're kind of stumbling along and then you levitate for a second and it's happening.
Yeah.
And then you're back down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like, it's the difference between like just saying the words to a song and singing them. You know?
Okay. I get that.
It's becoming a little musical. So that was encouraging. Yeah, that made it fun. And I decided to start on a second song, Zombie. It's just a particularly easy song.
Yeah.
So I started doing that and having a little more success and focusing more on the song and not like, oh, I messed up that chord. I messed up that chord. I got to get in there. Just like, oh, I'm actually kind of playing this song.
Well, let's hear Zombie then.
All right.
All right, that is recognizably zombie. Honestly, again, I know I keep going and harping back on, been playing for 5 weeks, but to be able to recognizably play a song is not something to sneeze at.
That's super. That's really easy. So
the two things I would go ahead and, or really three things, that I think could help improve your practice on your songs in the future. Yeah, number one, get the headstock up. Everybody commented on that on the last video, and it's unfortunately true.
yeah,
You know?
but now I've gotten used to this. This is hard. And we were doing something, I was like, oh, man, I can't. All right, let me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gotta get used to it.
Hey Dad, I'm editing the video, and as I look back over the footage, I noticed that you're still struggling to get the guitar headstock up while you're playing. It still wants to dip. Now, it's not a big deal. It's not like I'm a small but growing online guitar educator whose reputation kind of hinges on you improving during this series. So, as the understanding and helpful son that I am, I created this device to help you get the headstock up. Just place this under your left hand while you're playing, and the cutting edge technology will stab you if you get it wrong. Come by my apartment and pick this up. I think this will really help out. Back to the video. This is one of those things that I have said before and stirred up quite a bit of controversy on the channel before for saying that it's hard to develop bad habits, because if you develop bad habits, you generally get stuck and can't move forward. I mean, there's a reason correct technique is correct,
Mm-hmm.
And you texted me one night, and you were showing me that you were having trouble with a C chord.
Yeah,
And we realized that if you point the headstock up, it sort of solved your problem.
yeah.
And
I was muting the high E.
yeah, because your palm was getting pushed into the
Right. So then when I came up here, they kind of let my hand drop a little bit.
yeah,
Specifically when I was trying to mute the low E.
right.
That brought that into play.
Mm-hmm.
And down here I just couldn't quite manage it. But then just okay,
There you go.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah, and this is kind of what I mean by that is it's not hard to develop bad habits in that it's hard to do something wrong. Obviously, you can make any number of mistakes. I think people are always worried that you're gonna go along and have learned all this stuff on guitar and then realize that you suck at guitar because maybe you have bad technique or something. Mm-hmm. And that's just really not the truth. You couldn't play a C chord until you could do it properly.
right.
So really, I mean, bad technique is only bad in as much as it stops you. So I think it's good that you're kind of discovering that, and I think it's good that you are focusing on correcting the headstock thing. The other two things with the songs is number one, focusing on rhythm, and number two, focusing on muted strings. Starting with rhythm, this is the most common beginner problem. I think the two most important things that separate beginner guitarists from more advanced guitarists is not speed, it's not scales, it's not knowledge of XYZ, it's having good rhythm and having good right hand dynamics. And I just noticed, the rhythm could use a little bit of improvement. Learning to count music properly, which we'll get into later, and practicing with a metronome can help this. So it's easily solvable. It's unsexy to practice because metronomes are just not an exciting thing to practice with. But if you do it, it'll solve that problem. The other thing would be muted strings. I want you to start focusing harder on muting unwanted strings during open chords.
Right.
I think, we've talked about left-hand muting, using your thumb to mute the low E string on a C chord or an A minor chord or whatever it is. And then also on the chords where you can't mute all the unwanted strings with your left hand, like a D major, don't be afraid to really exaggerate playing just the top couple of strings. I mean, even if I have a D major here and I only play the the highest two strings, doesn't sound like much on its own, but in the context of a chord progression, kind of fits right in. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to really, really exaggerate avoiding certain strings with your right hand.
Okay.
I think that is going to be a big bang for your buck when it comes to practice focus and time spent on that, because it's an easy thing to fix. You already know how to do it. You just got to adjust your hand a little bit, and then your chords will sound a lot better.
Okay.
So that covers the spider exercise, the chord changing exercise, and the songs that you practiced. And I think I'm really happy with the progress that you've made in those areas. So let's get on to the new stuff, the exciting thing. This week, I think that you're ready for the first scale that everybody should learn on guitar, which is the pentatonic scale. Just so you know, the spider exercise is sort of the precursor to scales. That's why we do that. Unless you play like really, really theoretical, like chromatic jazz, you're never gonna play, just this as a scale. And that's almost never going to apply to a song, but what it does is it gets your hand ready and kind of gets you primed for playing real scales. And all of that starts with the pentatonic scale. The reason that you should start with the pentatonic scale is, number one, it's the most important scale on guitar. Everybody's always asking for, like, what's the one scale that'll make me sound like my heroes? If you like rock and roll or blues or really anything post Elvis, the pentatonic scale is going to be your bread and butter. Number two, it's important for understanding music in general. It's literally, I'm not making this up, it's an ancient scale. If you know anything about music theory, it's even older than the major scale. And number three, it's just easy to play on guitar. So let's talk about it.
All right.
All right, so first things first with the pentatonic scale. One of the things that's a big leap forward is the fact that this is a movable shape. So we haven't dealt with this yet on guitar. All the chords and everything you've learned are fixed. Like this is an E major. If I were to play it here, sounds pretty terrible, right?
Yeah.
All the chords, everything you've learned so far are fixed. This is a movable shape. So I'm going to show you the scale position just to give you a quick preview. It's going to be like this. We'll break that down in a second, but I started here on the 5th fret when I played that. You could move this to a different fret. You could play it up here or down here, and it works in every position. So that's what I mean by movable. And as you progress, there's going to be more and more stuff that's like movable. More and more scales, more and more chords, but it all starts with a pentatonic scale.
When you say in any position, is that just
Yeah.
on any fret? Is what you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I'm going to start off by showing you the A minor pentatonic scale, and then we'll get into like how to use it. To play the pentatonic scale, you take your first finger and you put it on the 5th fret of the low E string. This note is A. You take your 4th finger and you put it on the 8th fret of that same string. Cool. Then you move up to the A string, and it's going to be 5, 7 this time. And you play that 7th fret with your 3rd finger. Sweet. Same thing, 5, 7 on the D string. Nice. Same thing on the G string. Now when you go to the B string, it's back to 5, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
And on the high E string, it's going to be 5, 8 again. Sweet. And just so you know, for just about every scale you're ever going to learn, the notes on the low E string and the high E string are going to be exactly the same because it's the same string.
Gotcha.
So that was the A minor pentatonic scale. Notice how I pointed out that the first note on the 5th fret, the low E string, is A.
Mm-hmm.
Pentatonic scales, just like chords, are named for the lowest note in the scale. We call this the root note. In this case, it was A, and so this is the A pentatonic scale. This is the first position, or the minor pentatonic scale, so we would call this an A minor pentatonic scale.
Why minor?
Because it kind of sounds sad. Just like a minor chord, like an A minor chord,
Okay.
it's just sort of sad or maybe mysterious. This is also kind of sad or maybe mysterious. The contrast would be like an A major pentatonic scale. We'll get to this in the future, don't worry about it right now. But notice how this kind of sounds happy versus the minor pentatonic scale. So anyway, that's how you play the scale. When you're practicing this week, just kind of run through the scale. Just try to get it and play every note cleanly. Don't worry about a metronome or any alternate picking or anything like that. Just try to get the scale kind of under your fingers in your left hand, right? Mm-hmm. If that gets easy, then don't be afraid to add like a metronome or some other complication. That can be up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. Honestly, as somebody who's interested in you getting better at guitar, I don't really care how you choose to complicate it. I want you to come away from this week having mastered the pentatonic scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said a week. How long should that take, roughly? Just kind of.
To get good at the pentatonic scale?
Yeah.
You should be able to move through the scale up and down. I don't want to get too prescriptive, but I mean, it may be like 2-3 weeks, something like that.
Okay.
If you're not quite there, if my timeline doesn't exactly track to everybody, that's totally fine. It's nothing to stress about. And the other thing is, like, what does it mean to be able to play a scale? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To be able to play it with 16th notes at 140 beats a minute, probably like 2 or 3 years. And to be able to master it, you know, so you can use it creatively, probably a lifetime. But just to get through it so all the notes are clean, if you dedicate, 10, 15 minutes to that every day, couple of weeks, something like that,
Okay.
The other thing is just to go in depth on how we can move this shape. Like I said, it's named for the lowest note in the scale, the root note. You can move this down to, like, here is a G, and this would become the G minor pentatonic scale. See how, like, all the relationships between the notes, all the relationships between my fingers and the distances and everything are the same? We just move that whole apparatus down. That's what I mean by it's a movable shape.
Okay.
Now, we'll get into the music theory behind when you should move it later on, but again, right now, we're just trying to get sort of the mechanics of playing it down.
Start on the 5th fret.
Yeah, probably start on the 5th fret, just because it feels like A minor pentatonic is sort of everybody's default position for the minor pentatonic scale, although the truth is it really doesn't matter.
All right.
So that's sort of the rundown on the pentatonic scale and how to practice it as an introduction to it. Any questions right off the bat?
No, not really.
Okay. So we talked about all the stuff that you practiced last time, talked about how to improve on your practice last time, and we went over the pentatonic scale. So let's talk about what you should practice going forward this time. I want you to continue to practice the chord changing exercise, all right?
Okay.
And try to make that harder, all right? If you can encounter different songs that have chords that are harder for you to play. I know for right now you've been focusing on the 7 essential open chords that we talk about here on the channel: A minor, A major, E major, E minor, G, C, and D. But if you can come across any other chords, just to make it harder, if you have the 2 hardest chords and you practice switching between them, you'll just get that much better,
Do that with songs or just the metronome and just the straight up chord changing?
With the metronome, just a straight up chord changing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Definitely practice songs, and that'll be the next thing that we talk about. But I just want you to be able to get really super quick at that. Because again, the end goal here is to be able to do it like instantly. Continue to practice the spider exercise, but maybe take a little bit of time from your spider exercise practice to get into the pentatonic scale stuff. Spider exercise is super important, but the pentatonic scale is more important. Like I said, it's super ubiquitous. You will use it in your playing all the time. Knowing how to play the pentatonic scale is an important thing in its own right. The spider exercise is only important because it gets you ready for scales. So practice the actual scale more than the exercise, but because the pentatonic scale doesn't use all your fingers, continue to practice the spider exercise.
All right.
Let's talk about songs going forward, because as we've discussed before, songs are the most important driver of any practice routine. You've been working on Wagon Wheel, you've added Zombie. Where would you say, like, where's your level of interest remaining on those songs? You have a little progression to go. You don't sound exactly like the record yet, but if you're losing interest, we can pivot.
No, yeah, I've heard Wagon Wheel enough for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
But Zombie, yeah, I'm still kind of trying to get really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still interested in that one. And from there, there's so many songs. 74, 75 by the Connells would be fun.
Okay. Deep Connells cut.
Yeah.
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 Dang, I guess people on YouTube probably don't know about the Connells.
Probably, yes. Probably not.
Yeah. Hey guys, Editing Kevin from the future. I cut out the section of the lesson where I teach my dad the new song 74, 75. It's real niche, but if you are interested, I will have that tutorial linked in the description below. It'll be an unlisted video, but you can get to it through the link. Anyway, back to the video.
Getting a copyright strike, that would be a good goal for me. If we can get me to the point where I get a copyright strike, I think I'll be pretty happy with that.
Cool. You could just... that is a good goal, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's almost something like more tangible, more than just like, I want to be decent. Like,
yeah, that's a definite objective.
Yeah.
A third party is judging you.
I think that just about covers everything, right? We talked about
Yeah, I think so.
what you practiced last time, how to improve, talked about the new scale that you've learned, talked about some stuff to practice going forward. Everybody, thank you for watching. I guess we'll check in again soon.
All right.
Cool.
See you guys later.